We are taught that the market rewards intelligence. That is a lie. In 1720, Isaac Newton, the man who invented calculus and discovered gravity, lost the modern equivalent of $4 million on a single stock tip. He didn't lose his fortune because he was stupid. He lost it because he was smart. Intelligence doesn't protect you from financial ruin, it accelerates it. A dumb person makes a bad investment and says, "I hope this works." A smart person makes a bad investment and writes a 20-page thesis on why it must work. The genius doesn't prevent the mistake, it decorates it. Welcome to Minsky, where psychology, money, and history collide to reveal the dark side of human nature. I'm going to show you the psychological glitch that destroys smart investors, and how to spot the trap that caught Newton before it catches you. Psychologists have a name for this condition: Dysrationalia. It is defined as the inability to think rationally despite having adequate intelligence. Think of IQ as horsepower. If you put a Ferrari engine in a car with no steering wheel, you don't arrive at your destination faster. You just crash harder, and no one crashed harder than Isaac Newton. By 1720, Newton wasn't just smart, he was the intellectual emperor of Europe. He had invented calculus. He had discovered the laws of motion. He had mapped the orbits of the planets. He was knighted by the Queen and ran the Royal Mint. He had literally rewritten humanity's understanding of the universe, and he was about to lose everything to a stock tip. The vehicle for his destruction was the South Sea Company. Founded in 1711, it offered a seductive promise, a monopoly on trade with South America. There was just one problem. Spain controlled South America and allowed almost no British trade. The monopoly was worthless, but worthless has never stopped a bubble. By early 1720, the stock was vertical. January saw shares at £128. March hit £330. By May, it was £550. Aristocrats were buying, merchants were buying, the king himself was buying. Missing out wasn't just expensive, it was social death. Newton watched the mania build, and he did something smart. He bought early, rode the wave, and sold in April for a profit of $7,000. In today's money, that is roughly $1.4 million. He beat the market, he was right, he was out. If the story ended here, we would call him a genius investor. It doesn't. After Newton sold, the stock kept climbing. It hit £300 in April, then £1,050 in July. His friends stayed in. They got richer. Men. Newton considered intellectual inferiors, men who couldn't solve a basic physics equation, were making fortunes, while Newton sat on the sidelines with his smart, early exit. This is where the psychology overrides the math. René Girard, the French philosopher, identified this as mimetic desire. We don't want things because we want them. We want things because other people want them. Desire is contagious. It spreads through observation. Newton didn't need more money. He was already wealthy. What he couldn't stand was watching fools win. Every dinner party was torture. Every conversation circled back to South Sea. Every success story belonged to someone dumber than him. And here is the trap that intelligence sets for itself. Keith Stanovich, the psychologist who coined Dysrationalia, mapped 3 systems in the human mind. You need to understand which one is driving the car. First is the autonomous mind. This is fast, emotional, and automatic. It generates impulses like buy now or sell now. Second is the algorithmic mind. This is slow, calculating, and precise. This is what IQ tests measure. This was Newton's superpower. Third is the reflective mind. This is the override system. It checks for bias. It asks the critical question, should I trust myself right now? Am I thinking clearly, or am I emotional? Newton had the most powerful algorithmic mind in human history, but his reflective mind was offline. Worse than offline, it had been hijacked. Because smart people don't just make mistakes, they rationalize them. A high IQ gives you better tools for self-deception. You can find patterns where none exist. You can construct arguments that sound bulletproof. You can convince yourself that what you want to do is what you should do, and you can prove it with math. This is confirmation bias on steroids, and it's why intelligent people often lose bigger than everyone else. Newton's ego couldn't accept that lesser minds were beating him, so his algorithmic mind went to work, not to evaluate the stock, but to justify the emotion. He told himself the stock was still climbing. The momentum was real. Maybe he had sold too early. Maybe, just this once, the rules didn't apply. In the summer of 1720, Isaac Newton bought back in. He bought near the absolute peak. He invested more money than his original position. The stock price was approximately £1,000 per share. The smartest man in the world bought the top because he couldn't handle being beaten by fools. The timeline of the collapse is brutal. In August 1720, the directors of the South Sea Company started secretly selling. By September, panic set in. The stock fell 90% in weeks. Newton's losses totaled $20,000. That is roughly $4 to $5 million today. A catastrophic portion of his life savings. Gone. He reportedly banned anyone from speaking the word South Sea in his presence for the rest of his life. And then, he said something revealing. He said he could calculate the motion of the heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. Look at that quote carefully. He blamed their madness, not his emotions. He framed his failure as a prediction problem. Other people were irrational, and he couldn't model them. He never said, "I couldn't control myself." Even in ruin, the ego protected itself. You might think this is ancient history, a cautionary tale from 3 centuries ago. But the pattern repeats with mechanical precision. Fast forward to 1998. A hedge fund launches called Long-Term Capital Management. The roster was staggering. It included Myron Scholes and Robert Merton, who would win the Nobel Prize in economics. It included David Mullins, former vice chairman of the Federal Reserve. It was staffed by math PhDs from MIT, the most sophisticated financial minds on the planet. Their models were elegant. They identified tiny mispricings across global markets and bet billions on convergence. They calculated that their fund would only experience a catastrophic loss once in the entire history of the universe. It happened in 4 months. When the Russian debt crisis hit, markets moved in ways the models said were impossible. Correlations that had held for decades broke down overnight. Long-term capital lost $4.6 billion. The Federal Reserve had to coordinate a bailout to prevent the collapse of the global financial system. The math was beautiful. The reality was brutal. Newton and LTCM, 3 centuries apart. Different markets, different instruments, same disease. Both had unprecedented intellectual firepower. Both built sophisticated rationales for their positions. Both assumed their models captured reality. Both were destroyed by the one variable they couldn't quantify, themselves. Here is the hierarchy that no one wants to accept. A person of average intelligence who follows simple rules, diversify, don't panic, hold long term, will outperform a genius who cannot control his emotions. Every time. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards discipline. And discipline is harder than genius, because genius is a gift you're born with. Discipline is a choice you make every day. Newton should have asked 4 questions before he bought back in. Why do I want to re-enter? The honest answer was envy, not analysis. What new information do I have? The honest answer was none, just higher prices. What would I tell someone else in my situation? The honest answer was that you already won, so don't give it back. Am I thinking clearly or emotionally? The honest answer was that I'm furious watching fools get rich. 4 questions. He asked none of them. Investing is not a game of player versus market. It is player versus self. And the smarter you are, the more dangerous you become to yourself. Newton conquered gravity. He explained the motion of planets. He was knighted by queens and remembered for centuries. And he was crushed by the weight of his own ego. The heavenly bodies obeyed his equations. His emotions did not. The laws of physics answered to Isaac Newton. The laws of psychology didn't care who he was. In the game of finance, if you don't know who the greater fool is, it's probably you. Subscribe and learn how to stop playing their game. Newton went broke because he cared too much about what other people had. He chased status. But there is a trap even more dangerous than chasing status, trying to buy it. You think generosity makes people like you. You think sharing your wealth builds loyalty? You are wrong. Psychology dictates that charity often breeds resentment. To ensure your money doesn't cost you your friends, watch this video, now on why giving people money causes them to hate you.